S&P ETFs, VOO versus SPY. You may see a lot of people talking or recommending the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, ticker VOO. This may have you wondering why this is so much more discussed than SPY, SPY. Today I'm going to tell you why I prefer the Vanguard S&P 500 over SPY. So I believe one of the most important things in investing is the expense ratio. The expense ratio is the percentage of the fund that the managers take to pay for expenses and their wages. Historically, there really is no correlation between high fees and high returns. SPY expense ratio is 0.09% versus VOO expense ratio of 0.03%, while the difference is only 0.06%. 0.06%, that will eat into your return over the long term, and especially if you have substantial amounts of money invested. However, depending on which brokerage you invest in, there may be added costs to buying VOO, which could offset the savings you would gain by investing in that over SPY. So you really should take a look at what fees your brokerage account or your retirement account, whatever it may be, charges you. We're not going to get into the math today, as this video is intended to be like a quick beginner video to emphasize why expense ratios matter. When you invest consistently over like 3 decades and you have like $1 million at the end of those 3 decades, the difference is going to be about $10,000. Now you can argue this is insignificant, but this really brings me to the crux of what this video is really about. The takeaway is that expense ratios matter. SPY and VOO should have the exact same performance. They're the same benchmark, the S&P 500. So the only difference between investing in the two is the expense ratio you're paying. While these are both ultra low expense ratio ETFs, not all the investments you can choose from, whether it's your IRA or your 401k, are going to be ultra low expense ratios. Now, you can argue that the difference between SPY and VOO is negligible, and it sort of is. I would argue that expense ratios matter even when we are talking about hundredths of a percentage. They really matter when we're talking about 0.5% or a whole percent. So my tip is never buy a fund with an expense ratio higher than 0.5%, 0.5%. The lower, the better. You are throwing money away, as it's impossible to pick a fund using skill that will beat an index tracker over the long term.